Very great to see we have a full room. Thanks for being here. My name is Lícia Lima. I am a professor of public policy at the São Paulo School of Economics. I'm also with CLEAR, which is the Center for Learning and Evaluation Results. I'm the deputy director for the CLEAR Center based in Brazil that covers Lusophone Africa and Brazil, all the Portuguese-speaking countries. And we're part of the Global Evaluation Initiative, and we work a lot on supporting governments and on developing national evaluation capacities and systems. So welcome. So the title of this session is Demonstrating the Power of Evaluation for Policymaking, the power of rapid evaluations. And I want to first take the opportunity to welcome and give you a brief introduction of our great speakers. So first I have here on my right-hand side, Mr. Gilson Pina. Mr. Gilson is from Cabo Verde. He has a PhD in economics, and he's the National Director for Planning Ministry of Finance in Cabo Verde. He's also a member of the Commission for the Exchange Cooperation Accords between Portugal and Cabo Verde. He's also the focal point for Cabo Verde alongside the African Development Bank, designated a national authority alongside the Green Climate Fund. He used to be the economic advisor of the Vice Prime Minister and Minister of Finance of Cabo Verde, also an assistant professor at the School of Law and Social Science of Cabo Verde, and coordinator of the Center for Law, Economic and Social Studies. He's also a member of the scientific board of the School of Law and Social Sciences of Cabo Verde, visiting assistant professor at the University of Minhos, the School of Economics and Managing Portugal. Then I'd like to introduce Ms. Odilia. Now I'm going to have a hard time speaking properly your name. Correct me, but Kisnaskimbi Esona? Santogo. And Ms. Odilia, she's an economist and the current executive director of CADEHET, placed under the Ministry of the Presidency of the Republic of Togo, in charge of planning, development, cooperation. Mastering the tools of applied economics, monitoring evaluation, she puts her skills to use in the analysis of economic policies and the conduct of studies in the areas of social policies, microeconomics, public finance, and public policy evaluation. Her experience at the West African Development Bank and her academic work on infrastructure economics have enabled her to extend her studies to cover all the countries in the sub-region and of the continent, giving a perfect knowledge of economic and integration policies. Welcome and thank you for being here. And last but not least, Mr. Timothy Lubanga. He's from Uganda. He's the Commissioner for Monitoring Evaluation in the Office of the Prime Minister in Uganda. His work involves, among many other things, overseeing and ensuring effective generation and use of information. He has a long experience having worked in their social protection and evaluations for over 20 years. So thank you so much for being here. I just wanted to take a very brief minute to discuss a little bit about what this session is about. So the idea here, I mean, the topic of this conference is national evaluation systems. And what we're going to talk here is on about mainly focusing on rapid evaluation, because sometimes, as we know, I mean, if you're talking about national evaluation system, in the ideal world, we would like to have all evaluation tools put in place and throughout all the policy cycles. So in the ideal world, we'd like to use evaluation tools since the very beginning of planning an intervention, you know, doing ex-ante assessments and tool diagnostics, and then moving to theory of change and doing all kinds of process and implementation analysis that we can do. And then after once, you know, monitoring throughout the process, and after the policy implemented, hopefully we can take several approaches to do ex-post evaluations, impact evaluations, results evaluation, and hopefully cost-benefit analysis and everything we can. We know that sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes, especially those of you here who actually work in policymaking, sometimes you just can't wait. You need answers, and you need quick answers. Sometimes you need to make a decision about let's say, budget allocation, or you need to make a decision about expanding a given policy to a different region or to a different group of beneficiaries, and you just need answers. You can't maybe wait for a lengthy process of an evaluation to be completed. So in this context, what we have seen recently is the surge of what we call rapid evaluations. And the interesting thing about rapid evaluations is that there's no specific methodology for a rapid evaluation. The thing that brings it together in the way that it's implemented in different countries is that it's rapid. It's fast. Actually, in Brazil, it's called executive evaluation. We changed the name. It's called executive evaluation, avaliação executiva. And the reason why it's called rapid evaluation is because it's usually done when you need quick answers. And the way it's usually done is a process in which policymakers gather all the information that they can in a short period of time. We like to say 3 months, sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more. So you can gather information on different stages of the policy cycle of about one specific thing, or maybe just about results, or just about implementation, or about the design, or a little bit about everything. So different countries and different people approach it differently. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to understand how this approach has been used in the different countries that we have here represented. So I wanted to start by an opening question to all my panelists, and very quickly, because we're going to have time to answer more specific questions and answers at the very end. So I wanted to know, how has rapid evaluation been understood in a context? And if you maybe can share an example and tell us a little bit how it was carried out, who demanded it, who conducted it, and how in your context you understand rapid evaluations. So I'm going to go, I think it's easier that we go in this way first with you.
So good morning. Thank you, Alicia, for this introduction, and also for the invitation to be part of this great panelist. So my first concern is just to I don't know if you see this is better. Okay, I don't know if you see. This is a balanced panel. It's a gender equality panel. So this is the first panel that I can see. I thought that I've been assisted to see that gender completely, let me say, put in place. Taking about evaluation, I think the most important thing to do before I answer completely your question is about to see how important is evaluation. I'm from Cape Verde. I don't know if you know, Cape Verde is a small country, it's a 10 island. And if you want to implement some policy, you have to have a port in 10 islands. You have to have airports in 10 islands. You have to have hospitals for 10 islands. I mean, we are only 500,000 people in Cape Verde. We are not 10 million or 20 million. So have 10 airports, 10 ports for only 500,000 people. That's nine. One island is not inhabited. So so this means that you have to, if you implement some policy, you have to know what is this policy and the impact of this policy. And when we talk about the implementation of the policy, and also to see if your policy has some impact on the population, and also what you have been done is important for the country, it's important for the people, and also for achieve your objective. Talking about the evaluation is mean that we need to see how the resource has been implemented. So it's very important to see this, and also the questions came for this house. The answer came for this question is about to see when we have to do the evaluation is to measure the impact and talk about the rapid evaluation. In Cape Verde, we did give an example with the COVID measures implementation. We had a lot of measures during the COVID pandemic. And the question is, we need to, since we didn't know let me say, the period that pandemic will finish, and also the resource that we have to do to have for each measures. We did all the measures for 3 months, and we extend the measures for 6 months at the end of the year, and we have to do again to do the implementation of the measures in 21 and also continue sometime for 22. So to do that, we have to see how these measures has some impact on the population or not. So these came with a rapid evaluation, and we start to do some evaluation to see the measures we implement. And it was very important for us. First, because we did the relocation between measures. So this rapid evaluation show us that we were in a good way for some measures and not for the other measures. And also after COVID, we had I don't know, of course, the impact on the for each country becomes different. We had the war crisis. I don't know if the Russia and Ukraine war had some impact on your country, but in Cape Verde we had it. And we had the same measures is to support the poor families, the inflation and price, the food price, the food insecurity becomes a challenge for Cape Verde. And we were on the same situation with COVID in 2 years ago. So the question is, how we can continue with the measures or not, or we have to continue, how much we have to put on some measures. So since we did some evaluation, the rapid evaluation during the COVID situation, it supports us to see that we have to take some measures and also to allocate the amount for the other measures. So that means the importance of the evaluation comes into the implementation of the policy. But more than that is support from the partners. We had some support from the partners to implementation or measures during the COVID. When the Ukraine crisis, Ukraine war came to Cape Verde, we went again to the partners and said, please support us to implement some measures. They didn't, let me say, how can I say, they were open to support us. Why? Because we showed them the results of the evaluation. We did the evaluation, we used the results of the evaluation, and also we shared with the partners for the results, with the results that we had for the implementation. So that means the rapid evaluation in Cape Verde, for all countries, is the key way to go to the better implementation of the policy. So I give you this example, and we have also, actually, it's not your promotion, but we have been done also with the clear to measure to do the evaluation of some measure that have been done for the cash transfer for the poor families, and also to see how important is this measure. So I think, in my opinion, the evaluation is the key, as I mentioned, the key way to implement the policies. But more than that is to use, of course, as Lisa said, we have to have a structural monitoring evaluation system. But sometimes to use rapid evaluation is to, of course, we have to wait until the end of the situation, until the end of the implementation of policy to measure this, to see how the policy was implemented. But it's very important to see during the implementation, on the way, to do a rapid evaluation to see if you are in a good way and to have a chance to modify and also to do some restriction of your implementation policy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you. I will go in French. Je voudrais très rapidement remercier déjà les organisateurs pour cet important événement, pour nous donner l'occasion de pouvoir discuter d'une thématique aussi importante parce que nous savons tous quel est l'intérêt de l'évaluation dans notre contexte, mais encore plus dans ce contexte où aujourd'hui le monde change, le contexte évolue très rapidement, nous faisons face à des différents chocs, parfois multidimensionnels, parfois simultanés. Et ceci nous emmène à prendre conscience, mais surtout à remettre l'évaluation au cœur de nos activités dans le processus de développement de notre pays. Pourquoi? Parce que, comme on l'a dit depuis hier, l'évaluation, c'est une activité qui se fait, qui prend du temps. Mais aujourd'hui, nous sommes dans un monde où on n'a pas de temps, ce qui nous emmène à réellement mettre en œuvre des évaluations rapides pour pouvoir mieux comprendre le contexte, pour pouvoir changer les stratégies de développement ou de riposte à temps réel. Alors, dans le cadre du Togo, nous n'avons pas aujourd'hui un système d'évaluation aussi, je veux dire, aussi structuré. Mais dans le cadre du contexte du Covid, il y a eu des sortes d'évaluations. On va les appeler des évaluations, nous les partageons avec vous. Des évaluations, mais pas des évaluations pour, disons, évaluer ou voir comment est-ce que certaines politiques ont été mises en œuvre, mais plus des évaluations pour comprendre déjà l'impact du Covid et les mesures qui devraient être mises en œuvre. Donc, dans ce cadre, par exemple, nous avons eu une évaluation d'impact du Covid sur l'économie et également les conditions socio-économiques des ménages. C'est une évaluation qui a été menée très rapidement. Déjà en mai 2020, cette évaluation a été menée avec plusieurs méthodes. Il y a eu une première méthode qui a été des simulations microéconomiques. Il y a eu d'autres méthodes comme des prévisions de cadrage macroéconomique budgétaire en équilibre calculable, ou également des prévisions en équilibre général calculable ou en équilibre général dynamique stochastique, pour pouvoir évaluer de manière beaucoup plus concrète quels peuvent être les impacts du Covid si il fallait, s'il fallait, comment on l'appelle, rester à la maison. Et le confinement, voilà, c'est ça. S'il fallait confiner 6 mois, 9 mois, s'il fallait faire un confinement partiel, s'il fallait un confinement total, quel serait l'impact aussi bien sur l'économie, sur la croissance du PIB, sur l'activité économique. Donc, toutes ces méthodes ont été utilisées pour faire ces prévisions, pour voir s'il y a des chocs sur les facteurs de productivité, sur l'emploi, quelles seraient les ampleurs et quelles seraient les mesures qui devraient être mises en œuvre. Donc, on a eu, par exemple, cette évaluation d'impact. Il y a eu également une évaluation d'impact sur la sécurité alimentaire, l'impact de la COVID sur la sécurité alimentaire et nutritionnelle. Et cette étude a été faite, là, par contre, c'est une évaluation sur le tirage d'un échantillon de ménages pour voir quel est l'impact sur les ménages, sur la qualité, la quantité de leur repas par jour, et également, surtout sur les ménages en milieu rural. Quel a été l'impact que cela pouvait avoir avec la COVID-19. Et ces études ont permis de pouvoir très vite prendre les mesures d'urgence, mais également des mesures ciblées. Et une troisième étude sur laquelle j'ai voulu revenir, c'était un programme cadre de résilience socio-économique pour voir dans quelle mesure on pouvait mieux amortir les chocs de la COVID-19. Et là, par exemple, c'est une autre méthodologie parce qu'elle s'est beaucoup plus basée sur une revue documentaire qui permettait de voir quels étaient les impacts sur le financement du développement afin de mieux évaluer les ressources dont le pays devrait avoir besoin pour pouvoir mettre en œuvre les mesures d'urgence. Alors, cela a permis de montrer, par exemple, l'accentuation de la vulnérabilité, des inégalités, les risques qu'il pouvait avoir sur la violence des femmes et des filles, même les risques de grossesse des filles. Donc, toutes ces évaluations ont permis de pouvoir mieux comprendre le contexte dans lequel nous nous trouvions avec la COVID-19 et de pouvoir prendre toutes les mesures idoines. Alors, au Togo, très rapidement, l'une des mesures phares a été le programme qu'on appelait Novici, C'est un programme, je pense, un peu comme au Cap-Vert, qui permettait de pouvoir faire des cash transferts à des populations beaucoup plus vulnérables, mais également de pouvoir leur permettre d'étendre ou d'échelonner ou même d'avoir une gratuité des factures, des paiements des factures d'électricité, d'eau, afin de pouvoir disons, réduire la pression financière qu'il pouvait avoir sur certaines personnes. Et il y a également eu, toutes ces études ont permis de pouvoir mieux cibler, mais également, comment dire, c'est-à-dire mieux connaître les ressources dont le pays devrait avoir besoin pour pouvoir faire face à cette urgence qui a été un choc pour tout le monde. Donc, tout ça pour dire que, en fait, aujourd'hui, on est dans une sorte de bouleversement. On fait ce qu'on appelle des évaluations rapides, ça peut être des évaluations tout court, mais de dire que le contexte aujourd'hui nous emmène à repenser l'évaluation pas comme nous l'entendons de manière classique. Et ceci nous emmène quand même à nous rendre compte qu'il y a beaucoup de défis. Beaucoup de défis, que ce soit sur le plan capacitaire, que ce soit sur le plan, je dirais, statistique. Parce que c'est vrai qu'aujourd'hui, nos pays essayent de faire l'effort de pouvoir disposer des données à temps réel, mais cela manque encore. Et je crois que c'est l'occasion d'avoir, de demander, enfin pas de demander, mais de faire un plaidoyer afin que nous puissions avoir quand même cet appui ou ce soutien technique, de sorte à ce que le renforcement de capacité puisse être beaucoup plus enfin, comment dire ça, plus focus en fait, qu'on puisse savoir qu'aujourd'hui, on a besoin ou on a réellement besoin de renforcement de capacités techniques qui puissent emmener à ce qu'on puisse disposer des informations à temps réel, que ce soit des informations qui permettent de pouvoir mener des évaluations très rapidement, mais surtout que nous puissions nous assurer que ces évaluations puissent être utilisées. Ça, c'est ce qui peut manquer de temps à autre. Donc, je pense que c'est certains challenges que nous devons relever, mais bon, pour lesquels nous pourrons revenir plus tard. Je vois que Lisa regarde déjà sa montre. Merci beaucoup.
Okay, thank you very much. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So very briefly, I'm very happy this morning to share the Ugandan experience with introducing rapid evaluations. And we think we have an interesting story. I'm really happy to share this and also keen to listen to how it's evolving in your respective countries and institutions. So, so within the Ugandan context, what is our understanding of rapid evaluations? So for us, this is a new and evolving evaluation approach or methodology that employs about 4 key characteristics. One, that we do the evaluations quicker than our traditional, conventional approaches to evaluations. We use less complex methodologies or approaches. It's quite intensive because you have to do it in a short time and assess the performance of an intervention and come up with meaningful findings. So it's quite intensive in approach. And as I will explain later, when we do for the rapid evaluations that we have done, we try to really focus the attention of the evaluation team to achieve quite a lot within a short time. And fourth, that is quite participatory. Again, by its nature, because we employ an intensive and quick method, we ensure that it is participatory, otherwise you lose out. Otherwise, the whole process runs too quickly and the stakeholders have no idea about what you have done. So those are the 4 aspects. And in our understanding, this is an approach that assesses and evaluates a policy intervention, a program, to recommend aspects and elements for changes and for improvement within the quickest time possible. So we have adopted rapid evaluations as a blended approach using both internal government staff, but in many cases supported by a professional, a sector expert to provide technical support to the team. And in the examples that I will explain shortly, I will demonstrate how we are blending by adopting a methodology where we really rely on our internal staff to do the evaluations, but hire some technical support to ensure that quality is adhered to, and also that the process is done in an orderly manner. So, so far we have undertaken 3 evaluations using rapid evaluations. The first one was an evaluation of absenteeism of teachers and health workers in the public sector. So there was an outcry of a high rate of absenteeism of teachers and health workers. And Cabinet wanted to understand very quickly how bad the problem is, what is the cause, and what are the dynamics affecting this, and what are the solutions that we recommend. So for this evaluation, this was our first rapid evaluation, and we decided to use our internal staff. But what we did is we established a team composed of representatives from the Ministry of Education for the schools and from the Ministry of Health for the health facilities. We also decided to hire 2 additional people for a limited number of days. And basically we needed a professional in designing, especially in designing and planning the evaluation. For you as evaluators, you know that I think maybe the most technical aspect of an evaluation is to design the evaluation and plan it well. And that is where we did not have internal capacity, and we decided to hire somebody. But then we also redefined the role of the evaluation committee. Because of the nature of the rapid evaluation, the evaluation committee was always going to play a stronger role. And as I said, this was in response to an outcry that actually came from our own cabinet. The second evaluation that we did was an evaluation of a 20% gate collections retention fee for the communities that are living near tourist parks, where we host our tourists. And so there is a policy that requires that 20% of the gate collections for each of the tourist centers is retained by the communities. And there were concerns from the sector. This time, this evaluation was required or requested for by the sector. There were concerns around, is that money actually provided? Is it used according to how it should be used? What is the perception of the communities? How can the policy be enhanced to ensure that there is harmony? And this is an evaluation we did in partnership with a program called Twende Mbele. Some of you might have heard, we have an Africa initiative called Twende Mbele, where 6 countries from the African continent came together and decided to partner in aspects of strengthening their national M&E systems through peer-to-peer learning. And so through Twende Mbele, we developed tools, we developed guidelines for conducting rapid evaluations. And in each of the member countries, we decided to pilot with a couple of rapid evaluations. So this tourism 20% gate collections evaluation was done in collaboration with the Twende Mbele. This was a demand-driven evaluation, and we had very exciting findings. And finally, we have done an evaluation of the local government challenges in staff recruitment. So we find ourselves in a situation where even when budgets for salaries are made available, most of the local governments have big employment gaps. So we have establishments that are filled only up to 40 or 50% in many of the local governments. And so we needed to understand, why are the local governments unable to recruit staff if the qualified personnel are available in the market and the budget is also available? Why is there persistent understaffing in the local governments. And again, we employed rapid evaluations methodology. And this was a second evaluation done in partnership with Twende Mbele, with very exciting results. We have now a number of recommendations, which we hope, if implemented, will go away in improving rapid evaluations. I think I want to stop here for now and share more in the next opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. This is wonderful. I love that in two contexts we talked about the COVID, how rapid I think it was during COVID, rapid evaluation has become evident of its use. It was a good example of how when we needed urgent answers, but it's not restricted to COVID. Oftentimes we need faster answers than the traditional methods can give us. So I think we can probably in collaborative manner think of many different examples, and I'd love to hear from the audience later any other examples. I'll just have a question to Odilia now about who carries out the evaluation, because sometimes it's external consultants, sometimes it's internal government staff, sometimes it's the development agencies who are partnering with, and it's an important component of the eventually of a national system to think about who is gonna take over and actually carry out the evaluations, because sometimes we are a little too ambitious and hope that civil servants that are already in the government are just going to adapt the evaluation functions, and sometimes that's very ambitious. So I'd like to listen to Odilia. She mentioned in her talk that they don't have established national evaluation system yet, but they have carried out several evaluations. So if you could comment on if you have any specific department involved in those, and or some partnerships, and if you do have some capacity development initiatives in that sense.
Merci, Licia. Effectivement, comme je le disais, nous n'avons pas de système ou de bureau national de suivi évaluation. Et la plupart des études ont été diligentées par le gouvernement. Donc, parfois, c'est à travers le ministère de l'économie et des finances ou à travers le ministère en charge de l'agriculture. Mais ce sont des évaluations qui ont été menées plus avec l'apport et le soutien des partenaires techniques et financiers. Généralement, c'est le PNUD avec qui le gouvernement travaille beaucoup et a beaucoup travaillé sur ces questions. Mais si je prends le cas de l'étude sur l'évaluation de l'impact du Covid sur l'économie et les conditions socio-économiques du ménage, c'est une étude qui a été menée par l'université de Lomé, avec un professeur et des experts dans le domaine. Et c'est généralement le cas sur les autres activités, c'est-à-dire que le gouvernement diligente l'activité ou l'évaluation, et ce sont des consultants qui travaillent sur ces questions. Mais tout cela, ça nous ramène à dire qu'il y a réellement besoin d'avoir un système beaucoup plus, comment je vais dire ça, plus institutionnalisé, plus solide, qui puisse travailler de manière beaucoup plus systématique lorsque nous devrions mener ces genres d'activités. Parce que aujourd'hui, une fois de plus, le contexte, c'est-à-dire que le monde va très rapidement. Très rapidement. Il y a tellement de phénomènes qui font qu'il y a besoin de pouvoir disposer d'une équipe aussi technique avec les capacités nécessaires, de sorte à ce que ce soit des évaluations ou des activités qui se fassent rapidement dans le temps nécessaire sans attendre un consultant ou un partenaire. Mais pour l'instant, c'est ce qui se passe. Merci.
This is wonderful. And I like the fact that you mentioned the universities. And I mean, I'm from a university, so I think maybe many of you are from different actual government. I know there's people from international agencies here, but also governments. I have the feeling that we miss out a little bit on not involving universities, because oftentimes governments rely on external consultants, and that takes time, that takes resources and all of that. And sometimes you can find, I don't know, maybe a master and a PhD student willing to work with your data. And I'm a super advocate of partnerships with universities, because I mean, obviously I understand there are different incentives and different contexts, but where it makes sense, I think it can be a very fruitful and cost-effective and high-quality option. So now I'm going to move to Gilson, and I think one thing that we discuss a lot when we're talking with our partners in terms of institutionalizing evaluation is whether we need to have a law in place, whether there needs to be regulation in place. Is this relevant? Is this not relevant? Because some people think it's super crucial and it's relevant. Some people think there's no need. And then we keep discussing and brainstorming on whether we actually need a law in place for a system and for evaluations to be implemented and to promote sustainability. So my question to Justin is, do you have a law, and do you think a regulation or a law is needed for sustainability to be achieved?
So thank you, Lisa. I think more than having a law, it's a mandatory to have a system that can work. Because you can have a law to say, okay, you have to do that, and if you don't do that, you have to be punished, or you have to go. Yesterday we were talking about to go to jail. The question is, when you have a system that can work, the law is just for support and implementation. This is the way that we have been working in Cape Verde. Again, I have to thank to Clear Brazil to support us in implementation of our system. In our system, we have been trying to see how we can make all these stakeholders together, and also all the stakeholders to be, let me say, full engaged with the monitoring and evaluation system in Cape Verde. But to do that, of course, just to point, of course, we have they call it the basis law. Just to mention that we have to have evaluation and monitoring of all the projects in Cape Verde. But more than have this law, in the law, just can say, if some line ministry they don't give the, let me say, the reports, the Minister of Finance can cut the finance to the ministry. They will be not allowed to use the resource. But the question is not to punish. The question is to regulate, to do the regulation of how we can do the monitoring in Cape Verde. So this is the reason that we start recently. Actually, this is the last part of our implementation system in Cape Verde to regulate what each stakeholder have to do. So the idea is to support the implementation for how we can do the evaluation, what kind of evaluation we have to do, and also when and each program should be evaluated, and in the moment we have to do evaluation, how we can use the results. So this is very important because can, as I mentioned, can do the engagement of all the stakeholders on the process, and also can support this the implementation, and also all the system can be integrated. So, but more than that, as I mentioned before, of course, we can have the system, we can have the law, but you mentioned how is the relevant. So how we can say we have to use the law for Cape Verde. I personally, let me say that I am one of by now the most important one that want to make the system, the monitoring evaluation system in Cape Verde. But after me, maybe someone can have different vision. The question is, since you have a law to do to support all the stakeholders to say, no, you have to do that, and on that time, this should be the step that should be implemented. But when you have that, if Gilson came and Gilson go out, and someone came and someone go out, there is no change. because we have a system that can work, system that has some regulation. It's not because, in my point of view, it's not because I want to do that. It's not because I want to show to partners, I want to show my results. The question is, there's a system that can work. System can work with the regulation, system can work with all the knowledge and also everything put in place. So when you have this, the law is not for punish. The law is not for to say someone who has to do. If you don't do, you'll have a consequence. So it's only because it can support how the system can work. So I think the relevance of the law for the system is this, and this is the point that we want to use to implement our system in Cape Verde. So I will just finish with this. As I mentioned, it's not only about the law. We have a system that can work. We have a system, all the partners. Yesterday, we saw here the president of the NEC talking about the data produced in Cape Verde. If you have a system, if you have a law, if you don't have a data, you don't have monitoring and evaluation. So I think, as I mentioned, all the systems can work together, and the law is just to support how we can do that. How is my let me say, my importance on this process. So I will finish with this, and just to say, law is important, but it's not the end. It's important because just support the system can work. So thank you very much.
Wonderful. I really like this point, because oftentimes law is not enough. We have seen examples of places where there is law and there's nothing else. There's just the legislation there. So I like your points on how it's all working together, the regulation, to support the actions of different stakeholders. So now I'm going to turn to Timothy. Tim, I wanted to talk about the strengths and limitations of the rapid evaluation approach. And if in your context, is it implemented together, like in parallel with other evaluation methods, or instead of them? And to wrap up, I think there's important questions on if there are guidelines on how the results should be used, because sometimes we see that we carry out evaluations and not much is done with the results. So if in your context, you have orientation and guidelines.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me start with the challenges and weaknesses. So the first challenge that we have observed and risk really is compromising on rigor. The fact that you want to apply a quick methodology and undertake the evaluation in a speedy way and provide the findings quickly, there is a balance that you have to make with the level of rigor in your evaluation. And the risk that we see or that we observed quickly was that there's a risk of sacrificing on the level of rigor. Number two, although we intended to rely on internal staff, in fact, our objective was that the initial rapid evaluations we do with the internal staff, and we only hire a support team for the first 2 or 3 or so. And once we have built the capacity, then we can do the evaluations internally. The risk, though, is that there is a problem of independence of the evaluation. Remember, an internal evaluation can easily be shut down by some senior boss or policymaker somewhere. If evaluation is critical about a project, let me give you an example. We have a powerful minister leading one of the ministries where we undertook an evaluation, and the findings on some of the implementation processes were quite touching, and they were quite revealing. And it was very difficult to present these findings to that minister. So if you have those power and governance issues, you can compromise the independence of the evaluation, which is a very important principle in the evaluations. The third issue also is the issue of internal capacity. The assumption is that people who commission evaluations have worked with evaluations for a long time and are therefore able to participate. But in our experience, the first time we exposed our staff to actually go and participate in undertaking the evaluation, right from planning, preparation, data collection, analysis, and they discovered it is a different ball game. It's it's a lot more engaging. They needed to devote full time on the job until the evaluation is done, and so on. So capacity issues are also a big challenge. And then something that is quite unique to our own situation was the problem also of defining the boundaries between the hired technical support person and the mainstream evaluation team. At some point, it was like, who does what? What are the boundaries? Where are the limitations? So that caused a bit of confusion in our case, especially with the first evaluation. And I think as we go along, it's a lesson that we have used to be a little bit more precise in the terms of reference and in how we plan the evaluation. So that is with the limitations. Some of the positives, I have 3 quick positives to share. The first one is that there is very easy potential for scale up in the case of rapid evaluations. And this is partly because we do them at a lower cost, we spend less. Rapid evaluations in our case have been far less costly than the traditional conventional evaluation methods. And because of that, it's easier to advocate for scale up across the sectors to apply the principle. Number 2 is in our own case, we find it makes the function of evaluation more relevant, can I say more accepted across the sectors, and again, because of the inbuilt characteristics of the processes that you use for rapid evaluations. For us, this is important because we are struggling to scale up and ensure that all the sectors of government adopt the culture and practice of evaluations. We find the culture and practice mostly enhanced in the social service delivery sectors of health, education, agriculture, and livelihoods, but very little in some of the sectors. So for us, this principle is quite important in terms of having buy-in and creating more buy-in across sectors. Let me now move to the second question, which was whether this is done in parallel to or in place of other evaluation. So in the country, we are doing all forms of evaluations. We have lots of process evaluations. For example, we are just undertaking a comprehensive midterm review of our National Development Plan. My director for the National Planning Authority is right here in the audience, and he's very busy concluding a midterm review of the National Development Plan. We have many process evaluations ongoing. We have a couple of impact evaluations also ongoing. We are doing some with the School of Public Health and a couple of sectors. And we also have many end project summative evaluations ongoing. So we are doing it in addition to, not in place of. And that's what we intend to continue with, because I think there are different objectives to be achieved. And finally, what was the third?
About the use. If
Yes,
there's
yes,
guidelines
it's
on
a
the
guideline.
use or.
Yes. Okay. So we adopted the principle of rapid evaluations after our policy was launched, after our M&E policy was launched. So in our M&E policy, it is not defined precisely as rapid evaluations. However, the policy itself is being reviewed, but the current National Evaluation Plan has included rapid evaluations as one of the approaches that we take. And we hope that when we produce our second version of the National M&E policy, we will have it incorporated. So we have guidelines that we developed in collaboration with the Twende Mbele, which guide the overall process of conducting rapid evaluations. And we have adopted those and included some of our own internal country requirements for doing rapid evaluations. Thank you very much.
Wonderful, Timothy. Thank you so much. You mentioned one point in the beginning. I mean, I think 2 points that I think are really relevant and important to think about. One is the level of rigor. We do need to be careful because when you're doing a rapid evaluation and depending on the way you're using the data and you need to be careful about the limitations of the methodology. You need to understand what that can answer and what it cannot answer. Because, you know, if you're using less rigor, and often we are, because it has to be super fast, and usually you don't have time to collect the new data, which sometimes is what you would like to do. You are under a risk of not using enough rigor. So you need to just really understand the limitations of the methodology. So I really like that you mentioned that point. Also the independence of the evaluation. I think it's, you raised that point. I think it's really, really important. So now I wanted to, we wanted to give some time to the audience, but before that, I'm just gonna ask all my speakers to maybe if you can name one big challenge, because you know challenges are different in different contexts. So let's say some of you here want to implement a similar approach. This seems great and easy and useful, but it's also difficult. And I've seen different challenges of different natures in different countries, in different states. So if you are to name one challenge for implementation of this approach, you know, you can mention, I don't know, political, bureaucratic, or institutional, or capacity. If you can think of like one main, or you know, maybe two challenges, and then if you can wrap up with a word of advice to governments who are here and who are willing to implement this approach, what would you say? Very briefly, like in a summary, and then I'm gonna open up to questions from the audience.
I think the main challenge we have in Cape Verde, and also I think it's for all the developing countries, and also for all the countries that has been implemented or tried to implement the national evaluation system. I think it's the same. First, of course, you mentioned is the capacity building, but more than that, I will start maybe in 1 minute just to mention what we need. It's a resilient system. So when you have to have a resilient system, that means, as I mentioned, you cannot have a system that can change over the time. Or if someone change from the position, the system will also goes down. So I think this is a challenge we have. And the idea is to have a system that can be, as I mentioned, co-integrate with all the stakeholders. So I think for me, the main challenge we have let me now talk for Cape Verde is this. So is to have a system that can work without any comma, let me say that. The system that can work if someone change, we have to do that. So, but through that, we have to have a clear, let me say, position for each one's, and also all the position of all the stakeholders should be integrated and also should be supported by each others. Start for this is a capacity building in Cape Verde, and also to have a system when all the stakeholders should be aligned with each other. So this is the main challenge we have in Cape Verde, aligned with the capacity building. But let me just finish with the point that you mentioned is about advice to the policymakers. Monitoring and also evaluation. It's not mandatory because we want to only know what we have been done or what we are doing. The question is, it's about accountability. It's about to show the population, for the user of your police, how they have been used your implementation of or your policy. So how you have been done, and to show the population, for example, if you do some if you implement some policies, that's I'm not the directly users, but my family, my neighbors, they'll use it. So I can know that my taxes is using for something that can support the account. So when you have this, when you have a system that can help you first to implement better your policy, and also can support the population to see what you have been done, I think it's better for all of us. It's better for the policy implementation, and it's also better to see how the population can monitor and population can follow how the tax is being used. So this is the reason that I can advise for all the policymakers to try to use the national system evaluation strongly, and also with great coordination. And also the most important is to not to wait until the end and use as the main objective of this session is to use the rapid evaluation, because rapid evaluation can also support you in the medium term. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Merci. Alors, pour ne pas être longue, je vais juste résumer pour dire que je pense que les principaux challenges, c'est les ressources, c'est-à-dire les ressources humaines, les ressources financières et le renforcement des capacités. C'est très important. Parce que quoi qu'on dise, les évaluations, ça a un coût. Et je pense que généralement, même dans nos pays, même si la volonté y est, lorsque on n'a pas des ressources financières et qu'on a plusieurs priorités, finalement plusieurs urgences, le politique ou en tout cas les autorités préfèrent mettre ces ressources dans du concret, qu'ils appellent du concret, plutôt que dans les évaluations. Donc, de dire que il faut le renforcement des capacités, très important, mais au-delà de cela, il faut également qu'on puisse déjà, dans des budgets nationaux, pouvoir avoir des lignes budgétaires pour les évaluations, qu'elles soient rapides ou classiques, et également qu'on puisse avoir maintenant les personnes qu'il faut pour pouvoir mener ces activités. Donc, je dirais deux choses, renforcement des capacités et puis les ressources financières. Merci.
Thank you. And in a minute or so, I have already shared the challenges and limitations in our context. So I'll just focus on what recommendations we propose. So I have 3 quick recommendations. The first one, we really think it is important to entrench or improve the linkage between planning, budgeting, monitoring and evaluation, learning, overall in the public financial management policy making processes. And the reason is, if that is achieved, then you address all these elements of whether you have adequate budgets for the evaluations, whether you have the necessary demand, whether you are driving supply for evidence, and so on and so on. So our strong recommendation, and this is something that we intend to pursue in the country, is to strengthen that linkage between the planning, budgeting, and M&E overall. The second recommendation would like to make is we need to interest and involve more other stakeholders, particularly the media, the academia, and the civil society. We in government tend to like to do our things. We do our policy engagements, planning a lot, and there is very little room and voice for the private sector and for the academia and for the civil society. So all this research that goes on, who supplies the biggest number of evaluators? It is the academia, the universities. So our recommendation is that we should do strengthen that. And finally, the issue that my sister has just talked about, let's increase our investment in evaluations, in strengthening skills, in building teams, and in funding the evaluations. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Odilia, it's a great point that you make on the budget. It's so interesting, this budget discussion, because evaluations are expensive, as most of you probably know. And sometimes us as evaluators, we talk to different people and they, oh, this is too expensive. But we need to see it as an investment, because it's expensive, but it's a money that you're going to spend to be able to do it better in the near future. So when you think about the benefits it's going to bring, it's actually cheap. So thank you for raising the cost. So now we do have some time for Q&A. So anyone from the audience? Do we have a microphone going around? She's coming. So,
Hello, my name is Irina Kravchuk. I'm from Ukraine. I am evaluator. I'm practitioner with 12 years, but I also have experience of public administration. And I have written 6-7 years ago postdoc about evaluation of public policy in Ukraine. So my question is, and I was thinking how it would be the best way to introduce national evaluation policy in Ukraine 7 years ago, but it's still not yet fully established for sure. I have a question. When do you think it's appropriate to apply like normal or conventional evaluation with contracting out team of evaluators and long procurement and or tender process? And in which cases it's appropriate to have rapid evaluations. And I'm not sure even if rapid evaluations could be external, like fully external.
Yeah, maybe let's take three questions here. Let's take the lady here first, and then.
Thank you. J'aurais deux questions. La première question, c'est par rapport à la couverture, l'atteinte des cibles en matière d'évaluation rapide. Le Cap-Vert, par exemple, a 10 îles. Est-ce que les 10 îles ont été couvertes? Et sur un autre plan, est-ce que ça a déjà été plus ou moins abordé, mais en termes de profondeur de l'évaluation, jusqu'où on peut aller quand on mène des évaluations rapides? Ça, c'est ma première question. Deuxième question, qui a été aussi plus ou moins abordée, mais que j'aimerais approfondir. L'initiative de l'évaluation, d'où émane-t-elle? Qui a décidé de faire les évaluations? Qui décide de thématiques? Comment tout cela s'articule-t-il, sachant que vous êtes tous plus ou moins des services publics, des pouvoirs publics, donc à l'origine de l'élaboration des politiques, ensuite de leur mise en œuvre, et en ce qui concerne l'évaluation, cette initiative est-elle de votre ressort, ou est-ce que les parlementaires comme moi, ou j'ai oublié de me présenter, excusez-moi, Éléonore Zoa, je suis députée de Madagascar. Et donc, comment est-ce que les autres acteurs sont impliqués dans ce processus pour que les résultats soient légitimes et acceptés, crédibles, et puissent apporter une amélioration là où c'est nécessaire? Voilà, merci.
Let's give another one, and then we'll do a round of answers. Do you want to, yeah.
Merci. Bonjour tout le monde, Femme Diop Ndiaye du Sénégal. Je remercie le panel pour les échanges très, très intéressants. J'aurais deux questions. La première, essayez de parler fort. Donc, la première, merci. La première s'adresse à Odilia, qui donc vous nous avez expliqué ne pas disposer de cadre d'évaluation aujourd'hui dans votre pays. J'aurais aimé savoir comment vous avez eu à gérer la situation, sachant qu'il est important de pouvoir accéder à un certain niveau d'information de base. Comment, en fait, est-ce que vous avez un système de collecte de données, une agence qui gère les statistiques, entre autres? C'est quand même important quand on doit évaluer. Vous avez beaucoup parlé d'évaluation rapide. Je pense qu'aujourd'hui, on est dans un monde imprévisible. Le Covid nous a montré qu'il fallait savoir agir rapidement. Mais on nous a souvent également dit que la situation de référence est quand même importante. Comment on réagit quand aujourd'hui, on sait que dans nos pays, la collecte de données peut poser problème, la situation de référence peut poser problème. Quelle est en tout cas la meilleure technique pour réagir rapidement dans un monde incertain quand il y a un peu de manquement à ce niveau-là? Voilà les deux questions que je voudrais avoir des réponses là-dessus. Je vous remercie.
Great. Let me try to summarize. There's a lot, and then we'll hopefully do another round. So here, first, the question from someone from Ukraine. So I'm not sure if you actually wanted one specific speaker. We don't have time for everyone to answer, so I'm going to do my discussion here. So maybe for Tim, when do you think it's appropriate to use normal versus rapid? Traditional methods versus rapid.
Yeah, thank you. I think the answer is it is dependent on the question that you want the evaluation to answer. If the evaluation wants you to answer a question around the impact of an intervention, surely you cannot establish an impact of an intervention by just a quick review. You will need more complex and more rigorous approaches to ascertain the contribution of an intervention to changes in outcomes. But if the question, the interest is just to understand the performance of a component of a project, for example, then that is something that you can answer through a quick, rapid evaluation. So my answer really in short is that it depends on the evaluation question that you have and the objective that you want to answer through an evaluation. That will tell you whether you need a more complicated or a quicker approach to the evaluation.
Tim, there was actually a question from someone else, but I think it links well to this. How deep can you go with a rapid evaluation?
Again, I think this depends on many factors. First of all, again, on the question you want to answer, but also on, for example, the resources that you have and the time that you have been given to provide the answer. Sometimes cabinet or parliament can ask and say, we would like to have the answer to this intervention within 1 week. So you clearly see that you have a very limited time. You may not be able to do the evaluation in 1 week, but definitely you have a very short time. And so you cannot go the conventional way. Sometimes the resources that you have, yesterday we were having a conversation, or was it this morning? And somebody said, in my country, it takes 6 months to procure an evaluator, or it takes 3 months to procure an evaluator. So if the requirement is to provide an answer within 1 month, surely you are not going to start the procurement process. You are going to look at other means, and rapid evaluations is one good alternative where you can put up together a team with a limited budget from your internal resources and do an evaluation in a quick and appropriate way. So I think that those are the factors, but in reality, it depends on country to country. A situation, different situations have different environments and contexts. Thank you.
Great. I think for Juso now, you mentioned our evaluations being carried out in the context of Cabo Verde with 10 islands. When you carry on evaluation and study, do you cover the 10 islands? Is that, it's super difficult to get there. This is one question. Another question that I think you can link is who decides the subjects and how do you work with actors to accept the approach and make sure everyone is on board?
No, first in Cape Verde, until now, I think who decide if they want or not. Of course, the government can decide if they want to do or not, but usually the partners is the main lead of this process. They want to see some project, some investment. They want to see the results. But the example that I show you about the COVID implementation, we did it in a collaboration with a UNDP. Let me say the UN system in Cape Verde, but it was a joint conversation. So we decided together. We did methodology together, and also we did implementation together. Just to see who is the lead of the process. But I think most important, since we are an island, and also how we can care about the evaluation in Cape Verde, and also to link the two questions, and if it can be full external demand. I think not. For small countries and also for developing countries, we have to use internal resource. In Cape Verde, what we did for doing this evaluation, we ask all the public administration, but I mean all is all. We decide all the measures we want to implement, and we ask each director. For each director, we ask them, please ask your team to support us on this process. We did before this evaluation, we did the VNR in Cape Verde. It was also on same way. So the team was engaged on this process. We asked all of them and we worked together. You can see the public administration department. You can see the Minister of Finance department. You can see the family ministries, and all the ministers we were together, and we decide how we can work, and all of us we work on the same way, and also to give the inputs for the evaluation. There's a question to see, so how we can put everything in board. This is the only way that we did. So we want to analyze some, of course, the National Directorate of Planning is the lead of the planning system, but we cannot say we have to do everything by ourselves or ask external resource or external consultant. No, we have to go. We were analyzing, for example, some measures or some policy implementation for a ministry of the Ministry of Family. So how we can do that if we cannot ask those stakeholders to be part of the process? I think this is the way, and also they can support. They have a capacity. They know the process. They know better than all the consultants the implementation, the results, and also how or where you can go to receive the data and also to collect the data. So I think the way through that is to see for internal capacity what you have and what you can do with what you have. This is the main question, and also this is the way that you can implement evaluation in your account. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Odilia, we have a last question for you. How do you manage, you mentioned you don't have an established monitoring evaluation system. How do you manage that situation? I mean, do you have a statistics office? Do you have data collection established? And how do you go about data collection when you carry on evaluations?
Merci. Merci bien. Je pense que, comme on le disait depuis le début de ce panel, Aujourd'hui, le Covid quand même nous a fait chambouler beaucoup de choses, que ce soit dans notre vie personnelle, professionnelle, vraiment tout a été chamboulé. Et là, nous avons un cas particulier parce que effectivement, la théorie classique nous montrait que pour faire l'évaluation, il faut une situation de référence, il faut ci, il faut ça. Mais là, beaucoup de choses ont changé, le contexte a changé. Donc, ça nous emmène à dire que les études et les évaluations qui ont été menées, ça a été fait tout simplement parce qu'on a quand même la chance de pouvoir disposer des données. On n'a pas été obligé, enfin pour certaines, il fallait bien aller sur le terrain pour avoir des données primaires, avoir des échantillonnages très rapidement. Mais dans la majorité des cas, nous avons des données. Et au Togo, comme dans la plupart des pays africains aujourd'hui, nous avons un institut national de statistiques, des études économiques et démographiques qui font que nous avons une base de données qui peut permettre de comprendre la situation plus ou moins à temps réel et pouvoir mener les évaluations qu'il faut, les études qu'il faut et prendre les mesures nécessaires. Nous avons également généralement ce qu'on appelle la matrice sociale avec une base de données assez fournie qui permet également de pouvoir mener des simulations, des évaluations d'impact très rapidement et de pouvoir prendre les mesures idoines. Alors, un exemple, au Togo, si nous n'avions pas la cartographie de la pauvreté, par exemple, on n'aurait pas pu cibler les populations qui étaient les plus touchées ou les plus vulnérables à la situation de la COVID-19 pour pouvoir adresser très rapidement des solutions à leur endroit. Donc, tout cela nous ramène à dire que une fois que nous disposons des statistiques, des informations, des données, je pense que dans l'urgence, nous avons la capacité de pouvoir mener les évaluations, qu'elles soient rapides ou non, afin de pouvoir adresser très rapidement les problèmes. Merci.
I wanted, do I need to finish? I need to finish, I'm sorry. I'd love to just stay here. I know there's so many more questions and okay.
Yes, go ahead.
10-second questions, 5-second answer. Then we can do how many? Okay. He's gonna do it.
Merci beaucoup. Okay. Allô? Je vais poser la question en français. Tout d'abord, merci aux panélistes pour les brillantes présentations. Ma question est toute simple et elle va beaucoup plus porter sur l'utilité des évaluations rapides. Nous avons un peu l'expérience. Je suis du Congo-Brazzaville, conseiller à l'évaluation des réformes du ministre de la Réforme de l'État qui est aussi ici avec nous. Nous avons un peu cette expérience que, si je peux prendre vos termes, des évaluations classiques qui sont réalisées à la fin avec des recommandations et les évaluations rapides qui peuvent peut-être répondre un peu à une exigence. Mais ma question porte beaucoup plus sur la mise en œuvre des recommandations qui sont formulées. Quelle est de votre côté l'expérience que vous avez entre les évaluations classiques? Voilà, à la fin, vous avez des recommandations et les évaluations rapides qui répondent peut-être à une exigence. On a besoin prendre une décision rapidement. Est-ce que vous avez le sentiment que les évaluations rapides, les recommandations des évaluations rapides sont vraiment exploitées? Voilà.
Fair enough. She'd like. I promise it's the last one.
Je suis au ministère de l'économie et des finances du Mali. Je m'appelle Sakho Polikita. Les deux questions ont déjà été posées par mes prédécesseurs. Ma sœur du Sénégal a posé ma première question qui était adressée à Madame Togo. Et maintenant, la
Can we go
deuxième
back
question.
because the translators, can you start again? Because the mic wasn't working, so they can't.
Merci. Je disais que je m'appelle Sakho Polikita, je viens du Mali. Je travaille au ministère de l'économie et des finances.
Le micro ne fonctionne pas. Peut-être changer rapidement le micro.
Voilà, merci.
Sinon, on change de micro. On peut le faire. Change my microphone.
Allô, voilà, excusez-moi, maintenant je crois qu'on m'entend bien. Je disais que je m'appelle Sadio Koli Keita, je viens du Mali. Je travaille au ministère de l'économie et des finances dans une cellule qui s'appelle cellule technique du cadre stratégique de lutte contre la pauvreté. Mes deux questions ont déjà été prises en charge par mes prédécesseurs, donc je ne vais pas vous faire perdre du temps. La première question a été posée par ma sœur du Sénégal, qui était adressée à ma sœur du Togo. La deuxième question vient d'être posée tout à l'heure. Qu'est-ce qui est fait des résultats de vos évaluations rapides? Est-ce qu'elles sont mises en œuvre? Et si elles le sont, c'est à concurrence de combien % à peu près? Parce qu'on a vu qu'on fait les évaluations, mais les résultats en général, on les met de côté pour passer à autre chose. Merci.
Ça marche, ça marche, ça marche. Wonderful. I think we can, I know, I'm sorry. she's not gonna be happy if I give you the floor. I think we can wrap up with just a comment on the last one. How useful are these evaluations? I mean, do recommendations come out of them, and how different are they from the traditional recommendations? I don't know if anyone that wants to take that. Do you want to take that?
Yeah, well, I think rapid evaluations actually have the potential of having their results used more than others. And this is the reason. Usually, the request or the demand to conduct this evaluation comes from a government policy engagement, either some discussion at a policy forum or in parliament. I think the honorable member, in our parliament, it's not rare to hear parliamentarians questioning and saying, we have provided so much budget for this livelihood program, but what is the impact? What is it? Is it reaching out to the women, for example? Now, the fact that you do the evaluation quickly and provide the answer when the appetite is still on the table, you have a very high chance of the results being used, as opposed to an evaluation whose answer you provide 8 months later. By that time, things have moved on. And sometimes the policy that you are talking about is not even on the table for discussion. So the potential for the results being used is actually higher for rapid evaluations. You provide the answers quick when the appetite is still high for the answer. That's really my experience that I want to share.
Great. Odilia, do you want to comment from the youth?
Juste pour dire que pour aller dans le même sens, c'est ça. C'est-à-dire qu'avec les évaluations rapides, on est dans le contexte, on est dans la situation, et ce qui est plus intéressant, c'est que même la population attend. Tout le monde est dans un contexte attentiste, et là, ça force les autorités à prendre les décisions ou bien à pouvoir mettre en place les recommandations qui s'en suivent, ce qui est très important et très intéressant. Franchement, Covid, ça fait beaucoup de choses. Merci.
Okay. No, I think this question was rising when I said my presentation. In my directorate, we are responsible for the planning, monitoring, evaluation, and also for macroeconomic planification, but also for the resource mobilization. So my directorate do everything, does everything this. I realize on the result of this evaluation that it was very useful for us, because, as I mentioned, we use those the results to first to analyze the impact of the results, the impact of the measures we had, and also we use this impact to reallocate the resource to say, no, these measures was not useful as we was thinking about, and also the other measure was better, and we have to use the amount to allocate to that. But another way is two questions. First, we show, because during the pandemic situation, there's a lot of discussion, and also to see the opposition to goes against the let's say the government, to say you have a lot of money, but what are you doing? So with this amount, with this result, we can see now this is what the result what we did, and also it was help us to go to our partners, as I mentioned, to say this is the amount you give to us. As you, I don't know if you know, Cape Verde is a small country, depend exclusive of tourism. During the pandemic situation with the lockdown, the tourism goes down, and also we lost 15% of our GDP, and everything was stopped in Cape Verde. So we had cutting about 50% of revenue collection. That means we had to work with external support. So to work with external support, we have to show them that we are doing a good job with their support. So this is the reason that this evaluation can support us, not to show to the parliament, not show to the population, but also to support in resource mobilization, because you have to show that I'm doing great job with your amount. So this is the results, and we want to do again the same thing. So the rapid evaluation is important because it's not at the end, it's in the middle sometimes. So I'm on the process. I'm doing this evaluation to see if I am in the right position, in the right way. So since I'm on the right way, I have to continue again. But if I don't have money, if I don't have a resource to go, you can support me. And also the population can say, no, we can do that. Or the parliament can say, no, we have to support this because this is important for the population. And during the pandemic, of course, there's a fight between the opposition and the government, but at some point they have to agree that the implementation of the measures gave some impacts and gave some positive results to the family. So this is the main objective of this process, and also this is a way to use the results of the evaluation. So just to finish, to say, the question is more than use the results. The question is to take care of the results. So we want to take care because it's a light on your way. So since it's a light on your way, you have to say, no, with these results, have to think better to have more results, to more positive results, and also more impact to the families and population. Thank you.
I know. I need to. Very unfortunately, this has been such a great discussion, and I wish we had the time to take all the questions, but I would very much encourage you to come talk to us, talk to all of our brilliant speakers. Thank you, Otilia. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Jason. This was brilliant. It was really great. So hopefully, yeah, let's keep the conversation going. We still have today, we have tomorrow. We're going to be around, so we can keep going. Thank you so much for the audience. Thank you so much.